our events, all of these things. Now there's a program in place. It's the best I've ever seen. By this way, to say it's the best I've ever heard of in the industry isn't a high standard, because almost nobody has it. We have little splinter groups start up and say, we got an ownership program. Ownership in what? In a company that's worth nothing. That's decades away from becoming even a fraction of what we are today. But you build that code. And with the Heritage Premier program, you have the right to sell it. Well, the company, not the company, but we'll have independent appraisers help you figure out what it's worth. If you sell it, you're crazy, but sometimes that's the option. I got a better option. Pass it to the next generation. When Daniel Fombo and I were talking about this, and we're talking about our company that we love, World Financial Group, and he said, I'm going to be in business with my children. I'm going to be in business with my grandchildren. He says, I need to be with a company that's going to be here 100 years from now. And you're in it. These other things come and go. They move here, they move there. The one person who owns it sells it, and it morphs into something very different that doesn't benefit you. I know, I've experienced that a couple times. But that's not what you're going to experience here. You have a different and better future than those of us who built this company had when we started it, or 10 years into it, or 20 years into it. I'm so proud of that, I don't even know how to clearly articulate it to you. But the reality is, you can sell it, you'll be able to pass it on to the next generation. Do you know how sweet that is? If you had a farm is worth something, you try to pass it on to the next generation. When someone passes, that's in their estate. Half of that gets taken in estate tax. You got to sell off stuff. It's a mess. Now, we put a new person in the code number. You think Swan Wynn's excited for Alicia and the family, knowing that that business, which is doing 630 million points right now, generating tens of millions of dollars for that family, that has a chance to go seamlessly into the next generation. Woo! Woo! What is it you're supposed to say? What was your line? Your what? You don't remember? Just go with I'm pumped up. Say it. Say it. Say it. Well, you should be. A lot of you saying the words you don't even know. I don't know what that means. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I feel like I should be excited. I'm trying to understand it. Well, keep trying. Keep trying. I remember those days. And so we have a premier program that not only has a chance to go multi-generationally, but what if something sudden happens? Right? We've been hearing stories. Sudden illness, an accident. Well, now a qualified member of your family, they can't be 6 years old. You understand this, right? That's what the sales portion's for. And another thing about selling it, what if there's no buyers per se? Or nobody wants to meet what it appraises for? The company steps in at that point with their resources and guarantees that future. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. I've never had that in 44 years, but we got it now. We got it now. And so in that scenario, somebody's licensed and they're adult, it can go to a spouse, it can go to an adult child, qualified in good standing. They can't be in prison for embezzling money, stuff like that, right? They gotta be for real. And then it continues on in the family. And they then have time to figure out what they want to do with the business with the help of uplines and teammates. This is a cool thing. A very cool thing. Now the second area. I'm here to announce to the general session, we've talked about it in the leadership session, the WFG stock plan. This is a stock plan in Aegon stock. We have splinter groups that say, you'll have ownership in this. Our valuation is minus $20 million. I don't want ownership in that. I want ownership in something that's worth, having a chance to participate in something that's worth billions now and has an upside to grow billions and I believe tens of billions of dollars more in value in market capitalization. Our next 5, 10, and 15 years are going to be ridiculous. When is the launch date for the stock plan? 18 days ago. Now, we started something a few years ago. Some of us remember this. Some people here in the front row. It's called Associate Owners Group. We were starting to put together. This is called a reinsurance company with a field. And it was all, the only people that started at the beginning were making above $3 million or more. That's all that had access to it. We hope maybe we could get it down to $1 million earners, maybe even to $750,000 earners. You know where this one is starting? You ready? SMD. Not an income requirement, SMD. They have 3 categories. I even wrote them down so I get it right. We look like the first wave, we'll have about 170 people participating. When we were doing the other one, we were gonna have about 25, right? And they were already winning. You gotta be in good standing, no compliance problems, you gotta have decent net point ratio, right? But we're doing the top 60% of the stock allotment. First group, first guarantee, like the amount they know is like 3.5 million. That's not much yet, but it started. We had to get it started. Look, even I didn't understand how ridiculous it is to get one of these things in place. You know, the IRS has to weigh in on it. The Securities Exchange Commission has to weigh in on it. The Labor Department has to weigh in on it. And toughest of all, the daggone Dutch, who are so, can I say this in a public setting? So frugal, right? If you don't know what frugal is, look it up. It says cheap. And so this frugal group of board of directors, right, and here we are, a bunch of American, Canadian entrepreneurs going, hey, we want stock. And we want you to give us stock in your Dutch company. Only you ain't a Dutch company anymore. They would have said no, right? But now we're in Bermuda, and the answer is yes. And so we got it going on. We have started a process that will pass, in my opinion, so much wealth to the field, because the Aegon stock, I believe, has a tremendous upside. Been depressed for a while for a lot of reasons, but now with Fuller and Buchanan and Jamie O2 and people like I'm talking about with Michael and Drew, I'm gonna say your name. Drew McDonald. You feel the love? You want a hug? Or are you okay? All right. With this group, now who else is participating? The top base shops, EMD and above will compete. About 30% of the allotment will go to that group. And then the last group will be the top super bases. About 10% of the allotment will go to that group. So you become one of those top SMDs, and that's base shop production, or then we measure your base, because we want people who are in the game, not just overriding, not just comfortable, but are running base shops and competing. So EMD and up base shops, they'll be competing, right, for that 30%. Then we'll have super bases. There's no way sitting here you can appreciate enough what I've just told you. But I'm going to give you a little bit of an analogy. A number of years ago, when you used to have to call Microsoft to get help loading the new operating system for the year, I was sitting in my home office and I called Microsoft help. It was time to install this year's operating system. I got a guy on the phone. I'm online, obviously, and he helps me, and we start downloading this operating system. Back then, it used to take 30 to 40 minutes to download. And so while I'm on the phone with the guy, I want to be sociable. We're going to be hanging out for the next half hour plus. And I ask him about his family, and then I ask him a question. How long have you been with Microsoft? This is in the 90s. We know what happened to Microsoft. Now it would have been in the early 2000s. And he says something to me that really got my attention. He goes, 2 years this time. And I heard the words, this time. And I promise you over the next 15, 20 minutes, he regretted that he said this time. I said, what do you mean this time? He says, I was with Microsoft earlier. I said, how much earlier? He says, I don't really want to talk about this. I said, okay, I understand. I'm not trying to annoy you. I don't want you to screw up my computer. And I was quiet for maybe 2 minutes. I go, dude, I can't stop myself. Just the fact that you don't want to talk about it makes me want to talk about it. When was it? How long ago were you with Microsoft? You know what he said? I was in the first 100 employees. It's a company worth trillions today. One of the hottest stocks in the history of mankind. I said, you were in the first 100 and you left? I said, excuse me, what did you leave for? I got a job with another company that paid me $16,000 more a year. $16,000 more a year. I said, you were going to get stock. What happened to all your friends, all the other employees around you? What happened to them? Oh, these guys got a couple 100,000 shares. I said, what's it worth today for these people? For guys at your level, what you were doing, what are they worth today? He said somewhere between 50 and $100 million. Now I was speechless. And I go, man, I don't mean to grind this in, but what's it like? What's that feel like? I said, let me ask a question, paint a scenario. You're sitting at your dining room table with your family. You got your daughter on this side, you got your son on that side, your wife sitting at that end, and you're looking at him. And all of a sudden, does that thought ever come into your mind? You know what he said? It's kind of heartbreaking. He said, almost every day, I think about what I gave away just for a little temptation, just for $16,000. I cost my family a future of hundreds of millions of dollars. I missed the moment. You see, you get a chance to be at the right place at the right time. He was at the right place. He was at the right place at the right time, but he didn't realize it. He didn't know it. He didn't feel it. And he should have. Almost everybody else there did. You, me, all of us here, thousands back home, they're at the right place at the right time. We're going to be recruiting people tomorrow and the next day. They'll be at the right place at the right time. But you got to seize it. You got to jump on it. You got to make it yours. It's your time to win. Let's get it done. Love you. Appreciate it.